So I guess I'm going to start off, and again, my name's Marcy. I'm from IUPUI School of Science, and I'm a pre-professional advisor there. I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about your path to professional school. Different things you can do along the way, everything from academics to extracurricular activities and all sorts of things in between, to just kind of create that well-rounded package, if you will, to present. So when you graduate, you've got not only that great GPA and great entrance exam scores, but you've also got other things that you can't necessarily see from a grade in biology or chemistry or something like that. So go ahead and get started. I have a brief PowerPoint about just kind of the whole big picture of preparing for professional school. And if you have any questions at all, just ask at any time. It's fine, very informal. And this is kind of geared toward not just medicine, but other pre-professional graduate healthcare programs, dentistry, pharmacy, PT, OT, PA, optometry, usually the main ones, veterinary medicine, the ones that we deal with at IUPUI. So, okay.
These are the same ones we deal with, by the way. Here.
Okay, good.
The whole range.
Good. You'll never see me back here. I'm sorry. Okay. Okay, here we go. This is kind of what we'll be discussing this morning. I'm going to go over some of these things in greater detail. Obviously, your programs have, usually specific prerequisite classes. Talk a little bit about that. Your major, your GPA, of course. Good test scores, also very important. And this is some of the relevant background and experience are some of the other things that that you probably are throwing in as you go along, taking classes. And then this is, as you get ready to apply, we're going to talk about personal statements, letters of recommendation, interviews, a little bit of those sorts of things. First of all, before we get started, how many people are freshmen? Okay, quite a few. And sophomores? Okay, and how about juniors? Oh, quite a few juniors. So it's crunch time for you guys, right? You're getting right there ready to apply. And how many seniors? All right. Okay, so we'll talk a little bit about some of these things as we go along. Okay, I'll be right back. Okay.
You want me to pray for you? So you don't have to keep.
Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Thank you.
We can actually turn it around. We can move.
I know. There's probably an adjustment to make. Okay. That's so smart. Thank you. That's a PhD. Thank you. That's good. Okay. So obviously, there's some specific classes that you take. Typically, we're at a four-year institution. Typically, you'll want to take your prerequisites for your program at a four-year institution. We have a lot of students who ask us, well, what about Ivy Tech? Can we take, some classes at Ivy Tech? Some programs are a little more accepting of a community college prereqs than others. I know and I kind of know most about the IU schools that we feed into. But I know like PT and OT are some programs that are a little more accepting of classes, prereqs, classes taken at Ivy Tech. But for the most part, most programs will want these prereqs especially taken at a four-year institution. So if you've got speech or English or something like that, and maybe you want to do that in the summer, maybe that would be a good time if you really, if you're inclined to take something there, that'd be a good time to do it. Otherwise, basic prereqs for most programs, biology, chemistry, physics, and some others, obviously. There's some slight variation. And then some of the other sciences and humanities classes. So I know that everybody probably is well along in their programs and they've got a great advisor that can help them. Yes?
Did you say to ask questions during or wait till the end?
You can ask them during. Yeah.
Is it okay to take in prereqs, just general prereqs at Ivy Tech?
When you say general, what do you mean?
So like your English.
Yeah,
your
yeah. I would steer away from the science classes at Ivy Tech just because, and here's basically the reason why. If you've got it's kind of a matter of rigor. And professional programs will look at, you know, like how many credit hours you've taken in a semester and those sorts of things. So you want to maintain a kind of standard of rigor in your coursework. So basically what it boils down to is, say you've got two equally qualified candidates. They both have a 3.8 GPA. They're applying to medical school. One has gone all through IU Kokomo and got a degree in biology. The other one has gone through IU Kokomo with a degree in biology, but has had some of those sciences at Ivy Tech. I mean, that could just be, all other things considered, that could just be, you know, push that one person over the top. That's basically, you know, the reason. They look at, in their eyes, they consider classes taken at, you know, a four-year university as a little more rigorous, rightly or wrongly. I've heard some people also say that, like an A at IUPUI or IU Kokomo would be like a B at another school. So, I'm sorry, other way around. An A at Ivy Tech or something like that is more like a B at. So just sort of, this is something to consider. Yeah. Okay. So choosing your major, obviously you've probably selected a major already, but most professional programs do not have a preferred major. They really don't. Your main goal is to pick something that you really like so that you tend to do better in it, because obviously getting good grades is paramount for these programs. They're very competitive. And also, should these schools fall off the face of the earth tomorrow, you've got a degree that you can work in, or you want to work in. I talk to a lot of other students who, you know, say they're getting say they're a junior or a senior and they're about to graduate and they've changed their mind. They're not going to their professional program anymore, but yet they're getting a degree in biology. And they say, but I don't even like biology. I just thought that's what I should do, you know, to get into medical school or dental school. So think about that when you're picking a major. And again, nearly all programs is extremely rare to go into dentistry or even some of the other programs, veterinary medicine, without a four-year degree. So optometry is another one, yeah. So obviously strong GPA. This is maybe a little bit outdated, but IU School of Medicine right now is running around a 3.8. They've been at that average for many years. They're right around 3.7, 3.8. So you want to be at least 3.5 to be competitive or over. And obviously sometimes your science GPA is looked at separately than your cumulative GPA. So that's another thing to kind of keep in mind. But GPA obviously is really important, and that's one of the things, the basic benchmarks that programs will use to look at applicants. Another one is obviously test scores. So you got your GPA, your good GPA, then you've got a great entrance exam score going in. And are you all familiar with the entrance exams in your various programs? Okay. So those scores will need to be very good as well. Time frame for taking tests is usually, because we get a lot of questions about that. I mean, typically you're looking at maybe late spring semester, early summer of your junior year for most programs to take that entrance exam, because their application cycle will open in early June, generally, of any given year. So just to get the timing right, and obviously your advisor can help you with timing of the application and all of that sort of stuff. Most tests will cover your basic science classes and some quantitative stuff and verbal reasoning. The MCAT changed recently. Are you aware of that? Within a few years ago. So they added psychology and sociology and biochemistry to the MCAT? You took the new? Took the
No,
old one.
sorry,
Okay,
guys.
the old one. So, so they did take out some parts of the old one had a writing component to it, and they took that part out. But yeah, the MCAT it's a major test. It's a major test. It's not a typical standardized test because there's lots of passages that you read. So in addition to the content, as you're preparing for really any of these standardized tests, in addition to the content that you are studying for, the test-taking strategies is just another piece of it to know about. So just kind of keep that in mind as you go along. So now, you've got that great GPA, you've got a great entrance exam score, but there are other things, right, that you need to be a dentist or a physician that people cannot see from a grade in biology or physics. Like for instance, like if you go to the doctor or the dentist or any other healthcare professional, what sort of behavior would you like to see out of that doctor?
Friendly.
Friendly, yep.
Professional.
Professional. Anything else? Intelligent. Yep.
Good communication.
Good communication. Yeah, some compassion and empathy. So these are the sorts of skills that need to be developed in other ways so that when you do graduate, you can, they're gonna say, or look at that application and say, okay, so this person's done some volunteering and they've done some shadowing and they've done, some research perhaps and maybe some internships or, maybe they've done a study abroad or whatever people have done. Maybe they've worked in the field. All these things go into allowing you to develop some of those skills that you need, skills in compassion and teamwork and leadership and dedication and all those sorts of things. So you're probably doing some of these things as you go. Some programs like physical therapy, they have a set number of hours that they want people to shadow. Physician assistant also is a program that has people doing patient care hours, and they can vary anywhere from 500 to 2,000 patient care hours. So, so those sorts of things that they can't see from a grade, they can't see from your transcript, they can't see from your DAT score or your GRE score, are other things that you're going to be putting in. And I know you're doing this probably already, right? Everybody's doing these sorts of things already. I also see students who come in, as juniors or seniors and say, well, I've never shadowed anyone before.
Our majors do research, so we have a 3-credit-hour course.
That's,
biology,
yeah.
chemistry, biochemistry majors, and then we push internships. Now, that's all a little bit more difficult sometimes to find internships.
Yeah.
But we've had a lot of students, some in district that have had internships.
Yeah, it's all good. Everybody's got a unique set of professional development activities that they're doing, which are really good. Any ideas about what anyone is doing? They may like volunteering at a hospital or at a clinic, or you are?
Yeah, I'm a scribe.
A scribe, excellent. Yep.
For the last 4 years, I've been working as a Spanish medical interpreter, so I help patients.
Great. That's perfect. That is perfect. You guys are busy. You're doing lots of stuff. These classes are rigorous classes, I know. So anytime you can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone, not to be violent, but anytime you can, like you mentioned, you're doing Spanish interpreting, which also, gets you involved with people and building trust with people and communication and maybe getting paid for it, or
I also work. Well, I work in a clinic where I do reception work, so I have to schedule appointments, for patients, plus interpret for them. Then I work at a hospital in Lebanon where I interpret for all.
Right, perfect. Yeah, that's perfect. Very good. And some of these hobbies and interests, it may not sound like it's all that important, but for dentistry, for example, you've got to have that manual dexterity And so they look at people who can, play the piano, or they do artwork or painting or ceramics or whatever, to demonstrate that they've got those, dexterity skills. I know at the dental school, the #1 student a couple years ago was an art major, not even involved in the sciences, just put those prereqs into their program. So these can also come into play. Okay, so this is a quote from somebody over at the medical school who says, "We're looking for future physicians who do not just listen to hearts, but also have the heart to listen." So again, those people skills, empathy, compassion, you're building trust and rapport with people, all very important sorts of things to incorporate into your practice. So, you've got along, you've been taking classes, you've got that strong GPA, the entrance exam, you're putting in some extracurricular activities, and now it's getting to be time to apply, right? Apply to your program. So, personal statements, has anyone written one of those before? Or in the process of writing one? You've written one? Yeah? All the juniors, are you starting to write those? This is prime time for writing a personal statement. Personal statements, again, they're going to see GPAs, and they're going to see your entrance exam scores. So this is an opportunity to highlight some of those things they can't see, all those people skills. It's a unique narrative about you and what is your motivation for your profession. And why are you qualified for that? They usually have a character limit. I know for medical school it's 5,300 characters. Dental school is 4,500 characters. So that's spaces, punctuation, and the words. So that is something that can be done about this time of year, February, March. Before you get into like taking your entrance exams. This is when you're a junior, spring semester. Get that thing kind of done and out of the way, so when it does come time to apply to your program, all you have to do is push a button and include it, and it's ready to go. We review a lot of personal statements for our students that are getting ready to apply, so it's a popular time of year. I just did one this morning, as a matter of fact. So also reference letters, and you've probably been thinking too who you can ask for a letter of recommendation, right? Sort of kind of along the way, you've been thinking, I really had a good rapport with this professor, or, that sort of thing. So kind of be keeping that, in the back of your mind. Your main goal with a reference letter, in asking people to write a reference letter, is you want, well, to make sure they can write you a good letter, because we had a situation, the students generally don't see the letters. We had a situation with a veterinary school up at Purdue that told me that their admissions director told me that they got a letter for a student and it was 2 sentences long. That's it. So-and-so was in my class, they got an A. That's it. So you want to make sure that the person will write a good letter for you. And the other thing to keep in mind when thinking about who to ask for a letter of recommendation is you want them to kind of address different facets of you as they pertain to your profession. So you don't want them all to say the same thing. You want some people to say, maybe a professor in the sciences can talk about your critical thinking ability, your problem solving, investigative skills, those sorts of things, while somebody that perhaps you volunteered with could talk about your teamwork, or, well, if you worked in a research lab, your teamwork, working toward a common goal, which is what healthcare professionals have to do, right? They work in a team toward a common goal. Someone you volunteered with perhaps can address, your compassion and those sorts of things, dedication. So that's your kind of goal, is to pick people who can talk about different things about you, but all that will be important to your profession, if that makes sense. Okay. And finally, all of this stuff is going to lead up to the interview. So I know that's down the road a little bit for you all, but this is also looking at your people skills, invariably you will be asked, why do you want to become a fill in the blank? You know, physical therapist, veterinarian, pharmacist, whatever. So have a very well thought out answer to that. We do lots of mock interviews. I've done a bunch of them yesterday, as a matter of fact. So practice really helps with interviewing. Practice and practice and practice. So you'll be asked a lot about academics and non-academic areas. So that's interesting too. A lot of times they'll ask you, how do you handle stress? You know, because they want to know that you've got a way to blow off steam and that sort of thing. So just other things to keep in mind. And again, we can help you do all that. The main thing is just kind of balance. Be well-rounded. Have a consideration of current and ethical issues, because those will come into play. They look at things about the ability to handle the rigors of a professional program, because right off the bat, I know in dental school, you're bumped up to 27 credit hours a semester, and you know, medical school, you know, you're just jumping in. So they also value things like being a lifelong learner. Obviously, you want a healthcare professional who is current and up to date with all the latest trends, so think about that. And also integrity and strength of character. These are, you know, going to be really important considerations. Any questions at all? Sort of an overview of the whole undergraduate leading up to applying. Yes?
You know how long the personal statement has to be for veterinarians?
Veterinarian, I think it's around 4,000 characters, but check with your specific school, I mean, whatever schools you're applying to find out about that. Yeah. Yep.
Everyone. Do some schools not have like a prompt for their personal statement? I know PT school did. I had to follow a certain prompt when it came to my personal statement.
Yes, a lot of them do not.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, so you had specific things to answer, right? Specific questions.
Well,
that,
the
like
PT.
different.
Okay. Yeah.
Yes.
The PT guide system had like one personal statement section,
Yeah.
and there was actually a single prompt
Okay.
for that section.
Oh, I see.
And then
Okay.
of course, yeah, every school had their own questions they wanted.
Right.
But the application itself, like you said, the personal statement,
Mhm.
I found it kind of weird reading called a personal statement, but then you're actually answering a question, so
Yeah.
which was kind of weird.
Right. Yeah, you're answering a question. Usually, like for medical school or dental school, you're not answering a specific question yet. You may be when you get to like supplementals or secondary applications, but initially it's just your essay on why you want to go in. Yeah.
Can you use the same personal statement, or do they prefer that you write a different one for each?
Well, if you do I mean, most of these programs have a centralized application service, so you're going to put into that application, say we're talk about medical school. Well, what program are you going into?
I want to be a surgeon. So.
Okay, well, medical school. Okay, so obviously you could go the osteopathic route, or you could go the allopathic route, MDO or MD. But the MD application is called AMCAS. So into that goes your personal statement, your MCAT scores, your transcripts, and then manually put in all your classes. Right? This is it's a little bit of a tedious process. Your letters of recommendation go in there, and then there will be 15 blanks that have a shorter, there are 15 different activities that you've been involved in. There's shorter character limit than the personal statement, about 700, 750 or something like that character.
It was just like a short description of what the experience was.
And then you pick 3 of those to be your most significant, and that's the application, a demographic section. So, in answer to your question, yes, you do that personal statement once, and say you're applying to 7 different schools, it will send it to any school you tell it to go to.
Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
How many schools do you suggest that we apply
It varies from person to person, and it depends on lots of different things. Finances being one of them, because every time you do apply to a different school, you know, I mean, they're gonna ask for a little bit more money, plus if you have to go to interviews to all these places and maybe you have to fly somewhere, I mean, it all enters into it. And also, some people apply to one, maybe they want to go through an early decision program with that school, early admission in other words, and others will apply to, you know, 5 to, I've had somebody apply to 20 different schools before, so it all kind of depends on what you want to do with that. Yes?
So if you were to apply to just one and didn't get in, then what does that look like, you know, as far as timing and what do you do, you know, until you apply again? How does that work?
If you apply to only one and don't get in, well, you can apply again the next year if you want to. I would always get feedback from that institution to find out what it is that, you know, they want to see improvement on. You can do that. I mean, you can certainly do that. You can apply once and apply again. Yeah. But I would, whatever their feedback was, I would do that thing in between there, and yeah.
We've had students running into that, and in some cases they've done like a master's degree, and then they went back a year or two later, reapplied.
Yeah.
Often doing the master's degree can give them that extra edge that they were lacking.
Yes, it's important to know if it is an academic issue, a master's degree can certainly help because it's graduate level work, which is what, you know, professional programs are, so it demonstrates that you can handle graduate level work. And also, you know, improve your GPA substantially. While they don't erase an undergraduate GPA, they certainly can enhance it.
One of the reasons I asked is I was strongly encouraged from someone in an academic position to apply to more than one school. And was almost made to feel as if it's ridiculous to only apply to one. Is that true? Is that, you know,
Well, it depends.
my heart's set on one?
I mean, a lot of people will, if they apply through an early decision program, it ties you to one school. So you can only apply to one. So if your credentials are up there, I mean, they usually have higher standards for GPAs and entrance exam scores, but I mean, a lot of people will do that. Now, maybe that's not the reason they said that, but maybe they just felt like, I don't know, you might have, you know, if you don't put all your eggs in one basket, maybe.
Yeah, I don't know, maybe it would be sitting down and looking at my specifics. I have a good GPA, I'm a transfer student from IUPUI. It would be IU School of Medicine that I would want to apply to, and the gal that I talked to said, well, that, you know, there are people from all over the world that are applying to this school, and it's very competitive. And I don't know if maybe she was underestimating me and my intentions, or if there really is something there.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. But I mean, if your credentials are meeting their standards or exceeding their standards, yeah. We have a lot of people in Indiana who want to stay in Indiana, frankly. We have a lot. I see that all the time at IUPUI. Now, Bloomington and West Lafayette, they're a little bit different. They have more people from out of state at their institution, but I would imagine, is everybody here from Indiana? Okay, most of our IUPUI people are too. Well, other than international people. Yeah. But I mean, if you want to, I mean, you can apply to several and still go to the one that you have your heart set on going to, if you want to do that. I mean, you can apply to several of them. Yes.
A little off topic, but like, can you explain to me the difference between like a DO and a
Well, yeah, well, they're very similar. They both, have, 4 years of medical school, they both have to have a bachelor's degree, they both take the MCAT, they both, essentially do lots, essentially the same thing. There's a major difference in that DO, they have a little extra training in, what they call, I'm not exactly sure what they call it, but some kind of a manipulation where DO believes in more of a holistic view of medicine. There's one DO school in Indiana, Marion is the DO school. If you're planning to go to Europe, and practice, some European countries don't recognize osteopathic medicine. So, and I don't know if you know any other differences that you can tell us?
Not for application-wise, application are about the same.
Yeah.
I think DO does have a separate application that you have to do, but
They
you take
do.
the MCAT and then you have to get a letter of recommendation from a DO physician.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get into medical school, I think DOs learn everything MDs do plus a little bit more in the sense of the manipulation portion of it. And then it kind of comes more into play with residency. So I think with every year, MD and DOs are starting to become on an equal level. But to be honest, there is still some people out there that hold MD to a higher regard.
Yeah, that's
Whether
a bit of
that
a
is
stigma.
Yes, whether that's right or wrong.
Yeah.
Some people do that.
Yeah.
And so with the residency applications, that's once you complete your medical school, DOs have DO residencies that they can apply to that MDs cannot apply to. Or DOs can apply to MD residencies, but then you might run into the problem of, I got a DO applicant and an MD applicant, and they're the exact same, except this one's got DO and this one's got MD. And some people might pick the MD.
Yeah, that's true too. Does that kind of explain it a little bit?
Yeah, I just tried to look it up online, I literally just could not find it.
Yeah, they're very, very similar, very similar. Yes?
I heard you were talking about AHEC or something.
I'm sorry?
Where you said something about AHEC or something.
Osteopathic?
Allopathic.
Oh, allopathic.
Okay.
Allopathic's the MD, and osteopathic is the DO. Yeah. Yep. All right. Well, thank you very much. I mean, if you have other questions later, feel free to ask any one of us. And I'm basically done. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So I'll kind of start out trying to give my story pretty quick of kind of how I went through things, and then if you guys have questions, just ask me your specific questions, because I don't want to drone on about stuff you guys already know. So I graduated from Butler in 2014. I ended up taking the MCAT 3 times before I got in. Took it once in my junior year, I got an okay score. I took it once a couple months later, and my score dropped. So then I was like, all right, we got to do this thing. So then I applied with those 2 scores and didn't get in. So I was forced to take a year off. And going into it, I was mad. I thought, I didn't do something right. I should have gone from my undergraduate into my med school. That's been the plan all along. I ended up taking that summer after I graduated, studying my butt off. Didn't work, just studied. And then I took it again, I think in July, and then my score went up to something that I felt was competitive. I took a Kaplan MCAT course my junior year. It's a lot of money. They give you great resources, but I think my timing was just off. I was trying to take it while I was taking other classes, and I just couldn't balance it. I couldn't keep up with that class, that MCAT prep class work, and my schoolwork. And so when I would go to the classes at night, I just wasn't with what they were talking about, and it didn't help me that much. The other resource I used is this thing called Exam Crackers. It's just a set of books, and I really liked those. So I had my Kaplan books and I had my Exam Cracker books. And I liked both of them for different reasons, but those are just 2 of the resources I used. So like I said, then I took it at the end of the summer and I applied, and for that year that I had to take off, I ended up scribing, and it ended up being probably one of the best things I did. So the reason why I say this is if you plan to take a year off or 2, great. If you don't plan to and that ends up being your path, it's okay. When you get into school, you're gonna end up, people came all different ways, and that's why throughout your pre-professional and professional programs, the answer you're gonna get the most is it depends, always. You know, it's always gonna be it depends. And then you're like, well, it depends on what? And so you kind of have to figure out, you. And I think one of the things I kind of want to stress is there are certain things you have to accept now because they're just going to keep popping up later on. And if you can't accept them, it's tough, but if you can't accept them now, then you're going to be frustrated the entire way along. And so one of those things is it depends. And you got to figure out what are those things that you have and be realistic about, you know, okay, you know, they're saying I need this GPA and I don't have this, so now I got to pad my resume in the other spots I know I have. You know, I'm really good, I love volunteering, you know, get really involved in something and prove that you have a passion about that. I think that's one of the big things. They just want to see passion and drive. Okay, so then I took my year off, I scribed, and then I interviewed in February, and that was the very last interview that IU offered, and then I got in a couple months later. I was told that I got in. So, you know, you could interview. I think IU starts interviews in October, September.
September.
Okay, and you could not hear until you know, a long time. So they release their decisions. At least IU releases their decisions on the 15th of every month, right? Okay. And so you kind of just wait around until the 15th of every month to see what they said. I interviewed at 2 other places, and IU was the only place I got into. I wanted to go to IU. I'm from Indiana, so it was okay for me. But kind of to your question about applying to one spot, if you do the early admission to IU, you can do that. And then if you get the answer of no, you can still send out your application to other places. You're not going to have missed the deadline. I think that's the point of IU doing it so early.
Right. The only thing you might run into is when they do release you back to the main applicant pool, it's a little bit late in the game for some schools. Like IU does not do rolling admissions, but some medical schools do rolling admissions. So, and I don't know if you know what that is, but so if their deadline is, you know, December the 1st, and they've been looking at people and filling the class all along, that class could be filled by November 13th, or, you know, it doesn't matter what the deadline is. IU doesn't do it that way, though. They don't do rolling admissions.
So you know, that's an option too if you're really dead set on IU, or even if you are dead set on IU, apply to other places, and if you get into IU, great, and if you don't and you get in somewhere else, maybe now you have a different decision as, you know, do I really want to start this year and I'd be willing to go to this other school I got into, or, you know, I really want to go to IU and I'm willing to take another year off to try and reapply. So it's all personal preference and kind of what you're willing and okay to do, and you're going to find people in my med school class, I think the oldest person was like 30 years old, you know, starting as a first year. So like, you know, like I said, there's different paths and you're going to get, it depends a lot, and that's because you have such a wide variety that, you know, can get in. Okay, I think that's about up to me getting into med school. Do you guys have any questions?
I know that you said that you took the MCAT 3 times. And when you applied, like, how did you keep your confidence up? I know that you said it was really hard and you got frustrated, but how did you, like, say, I'm going to keep trying and I'm going to keep doing this, instead of, like, well, there are obviously people that are smarter than I am that got in before me. Like, how do you, like...
If you can accept now, there's always going to be someone smarter than you in med school or dental school or PA school or PT school, whatever. You're going to find that. There's always going to be someone smarter than you out there. So you just kind of have to want it. And my sister's applying and kind of going through it right now, and the thing I keep checking in on her with is, do you want it? And I think that's kind of like the biggest thing, is there was nothing else I could see myself doing. There's nothing else I wanted to do. So it was, you know, buckle down. This is your last chance. Now there were times where I like, you know, if I don't get in, I don't know if I can do this again. Luckily it didn't come to that decision where I had to decide, okay, do I need to do this again? But So yeah, I think it's just you have to want it, and you have to be like, this is the only option in my head. Now, you also have to be realistic about things. If you have, and this is hard, it's hard to accept because I'm going through it with like residencies. I really want something and it's competitive, and I'm not necessarily all the way at the top up there. I'm there, I can reach it, but I have to really want it to do it. But I lost my train of thought.
We're talking about residency.
Be realistic. Got it. If you have a 3.2 and you have a 450 would be like a low bit on the new score. If you have really low scores, you may be setting yourself up without improving those things first. And another kind of thing that if you could accept now, standardized tests suck. They do. But they are not going away. And you kind of just have to learn how to tackle the beast of standardized tests, and each one is different. So in regards to the MCAT is not going to tell you how good you're going to do in med school. It's not going to tell you how good of a doctor you're going to be. It's not going to tell you how great you're going to do on the math test that you have in a week. It's a whole different beast, and you just kind of have to figure out how to take that test. And my advice to figure that out would be study the content once. Go through the content, go through those books that have, the physics, the chemistry, and then take practice tests and figure out, okay, they're giving me this long passage, and to be honest, probably 2 sentences is important out of it. So practice on picking up on which 2 sentences are important. Another advice that, or tip that I got is, and this can carry on into medical school and all that, is the answer choices that have never or always in them are probably not going to be right. They like to give you the ones that are kind of the in-betweeners. So if they, have one that says, this is always the case. Done. That's out. I'm not even going to read it. This is never this. Done. Out. And now I'm already, down to 3. And I do that in med school too, because it's never and always, and it's never and never, and it's always it depends. So. I'm trying to be realistic with you guys. It's scary, I know, and it's, every step of the way you kind of get overwhelmed a little bit. But you just have to want it. Any other questions? Yeah.
So apart from volunteering and scribing, what else did you do to become a more well-rounded student to graduate yourself?
So volunteering, I would say, try and volunteer with 1 or 2 organizations, and don't just, one thing here, one thing there, if you can establish yourself. I was also involved in clubs. I was in a sorority and had leadership positions through those sororities. So I think leadership positions kind of help a little bit too. And then just, like I said, different clubs, different organizations. And if you like research, do research. I don't like research, so I avoided it as long as I could. And I'm doing research next month because I have to get into the program that I really want to get into. So, but if you like it, that's awesome. That's another way to pad your resume. So yeah, just doing things that you like to do, and then if you can get kind of like the double duty out of it, it's awesome.
And also, in terms of Princeton versus Kaplan, what do you recommend? Which books do you use for MCAT?
I use Kaplan. Like I said, I took a Kaplan MCAT prep course. I don't know if I've talked to anyone that's done Princeton. Not saying that people don't do it. I just personally haven't talked to anyone that's done it, so I can't speak on behalf of that. Kaplan, though, I like the books. The class that I took, and I think it would be helpful. The class could be helpful. My timing was bad.
In-person class or online?
I did in person because I learned better in person. So it was like a nighttime class, on my campus. But you could do online too, and you get the same resources. You just don't get the person in front of you talking about the material.
So do you think those crash courses are a good investment, or is it better to just study on your own?
It depends. Depends on how you learn. So I thought, I learned better in a classroom. I like the smaller campus sizes. That's why I went to Butler. For IU, I went to Fort Wayne. That campus has smaller campus sizes. So if you like classroom learning, I think it could be helpful as long as you keep up on the material. Otherwise, if you're self-motivated and you can make a study schedule and be like, you know, this is just, I have a 2-hour break in between classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and I'm going to make that my MCAT study time, and you can kind of do something like that, then the online would be fine as well. So it's your learning style, and that's one other piece of advice is you're going to get advice from 1,000 different people along the way, and it's going to be conflicting advices, and it's going to be, you know, well, this person said to do this, and this person said to do this. You have to know what works best for you, and take it and kind of leave certain advice pieces as you go. So I like kind of has the same work ethic as I do, and stuff, and then talk to that one person and say what worked for you, what did you do? Because otherwise, like I said, you can succeed doing things all the way this way, and you can succeed doing things all the way this way. And if you're somewhere in between, you got to find what works for you.
What was your major in college?
Biology, and then I did chemistry and business minors.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is medical school like?
That's a loaded question.
That is a loaded
Yeah.
question.
It depends, right?
It depends.
No, it doesn't depend. It's hard. It's good. You're learning finally what, for me, I was learning finally what I wanted to learn about. But you're learning at it at a 2 times speed. And so kind of having this ways to deal with stress. And, you know, I don't know if I've completely figured that out. Sometimes my way of dealing with it is just crying. You know, I just cry for a little bit and why am I doing this to myself? But then, you know, you get into the clinic setting in your 3rd and 4th year and you feel like you walk out of a room and you're like, I just helped that patient, you know, and then that kind of relights the fuel. So it's hard, it's a lot of work, and like I said, don't do it unless you really want it, because otherwise you're going to question yourself every step of the way.
When do you start doing like hands-on stuff?
So they have a new curriculum now at IU, and I'm the last class of the old curriculum, just like I was the last class of the MCAT. So, but I think they're trying to integrate it earlier, to give you a little bit of clinic experience in your 1st and 2nd year. The issue is there's so much you have to learn, and so to take away those hours and put you in the clinic, it's good, but you can't do too much of it, right? Because they're doing it a little bit as 1st and 2nd years, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then 3rd and 4th year is really where you get into the clinics, and that's where you're basically, you do your rotations, and you do the required ones your 3rd year, and so that includes like your surgery, internal med, family med, pediatrics, those kind of big ones. You do those your 3rd year, and then 4th year you got 3 that you have to do, and then you get to cater the rest of your schedule to whatever you're interested in.
What are you interested in?
ENT, ear, nose, and throat. So it's some clinic, some surgery. Yeah, I like the best of both worlds. Yeah.
This kind of elaborates the kind of thing we were talking about, but for you specifically, when you first set foot into your 1st class in medical school, from where you are now, what kind of habits have you formed that you pass along just how you deal with everything from the 2 times setting to stress and whatnot?
So I think for me, like I said, I do well when it's a smaller classroom setting, so it was nice to walk into a classroom where I could, you know, probably be this far away from the professor. I'm a notes writer, so I had big binders and I printed off all the PowerPoints and I wrote on the PowerPoints. Now there's all sorts of technology stuff where you don't even have to have the paper printed out, so whatever works for you. But I like to go to class, I like to write on the notes, and I think it's just sticking to like a study schedule. So it's really easy to be like, I was just in class for 6 hours and I'm really tired and I deserve to watch TV for 5 hours, Well, yes, that sounds great. I would love to do that. But kind of sticking yourself to, I would try and do, all right, from 8 a.m. to 8 to 9 p.m., I want to be productive doing something. Now, whether that was in class, studying, or working out, you know, I wanted to try and stay productive for those hours, because otherwise it is really easy to be like, oh God, you know, I'm just gonna go sit on the couch for a little bit. So that's kind of how I approached it, and that's how I tried to, you know, make sure that I was busy. The other thing is finding people in your class that you like to study with, and find people that study the same as you. Now, you might not study the same as the best friend in the class, so you might not be able to study together, but don't waste your time studying with people that study different than you, because you're not going to get the hour that you spent with that person maybe could have been condensed into 30 minutes with someone that, you know, you studied the same as. Does that kind of answer it? It's dedication is probably if I had to put it down to a word, you know, just
kind of bring it back to you as a parent, kind of back to pain versus pleasure, meaning about what you want in life kind of brings you more pleasures, rather than the analogy of just sitting on the couch eating pizza and ice cream all the time, versus going out and doing things that are more productive. Even though you may suffer, you may undoubtedly may lead to better pleasure and overall happiness.
yeah. What you said. Go ahead.
So you were saying like about 12-hour blocks, what you like to do to stay productive. Did you say that was like every day, or what kind of schedule did you keep? What sorts of things did you find yourself like eliminating from your life or changing? I mean, how did that still change?
Yeah, so keep in mind this is all me. I'm a little bit type A, and there are lots of people in my class that are not type A, and so they were able to maybe have a little bit more freedom. I would say that 12-hour kind of block kind of was what I did right before tests, or while studying for step 1, which is the big test you take at the end of your second year. That's kind of when I tried to buckle down in that sense. Now on a daily basis, you know, through your first 2 years, your classes are changing, but things that I think helped keep my sanity is we did intramural sports with my classmates. So with whatever, I was at IPFW, so we did sports through IPFW, and that was a nice thing because like we'd all be at the building studying, and then it would be like, all right, hey, half an hour, we gotta go, we're gonna go play soccer for a little bit, and then, you know, we'd go play soccer, and then we'd come back, and then we'd study again. So that's kind of nice to do. Then you're doing something outside of medicine, and you're getting your exercise. But I would say, and then cooking meals, if you can keep that in your daily whatever to-do list, you know, that's also hard to do. So I would, you know, some of my classmates cooked on Sundays, and they just cooked for the whole week. Others did a lot of frozen meals.
Fast food, is that what you mean?
Yes, because then, right, if you're eating, you're gonna run out of time, and then you're gonna be like, all right, great, I'm gonna pick up McDonald's on my way home or Wendy's on my way home, but then that's not good for your overall health either. And so kind of trying to, you know, exercise and then eating okay and studying. And then my family relations or friend relations and all that. And I would say I probably, you know, didn't talk to my friends as much, but it was my friends, it was okay. When we got together, it was like nothing has changed. So that was okay, but try not to cut out anything that's too important to you. You may have to cut back in some of the stuff, but don't cut it out, because if you're not happy, then what's the point?
So did you, kind of going on with her question, so did you like give yourself new time?
Yeah, and you had, and like I said, I just kind of cracked down right before, you know, tests or, you know, stuff like that. But yeah, you definitely have to, and I'm not saying I never sat on the couch and watched TV for 3 hours straight. I did that. I did do that. Or like a whole weekend, I was like, I'm tired of this, and I'm not looking at a book once. You know, but just don't make a habit of it, is, you know, kind of the point. You know, you're still human, and it's still, like I said, it's hard. And sometimes you just need to be like, you know, I need to step away for a second. I need to take some time for me. I need to go home, spend time with my family. So, you know, I'm not saying that. Everything is moderation. You know, and I think you're gonna meet people that balanced it really well, and other people that just couldn't do it. And so it's hard. It is hard. But you guys can do it. Don't let me scare you. I just want to be honest with you guys that it's just, if it's not something that you guys want, then it is going to be hard. But if it is something you want, then yeah, the struggles will be there, but you're going to be able to get through them because this is all you can see yourself doing. I scared them. I scared them.
I always told my son when he was in college, if it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah,
It's not easy,
exactly.
but it is worth it in the end, so. Okay, well,
Karen,
I'll
do
go
you want to
ahead.
talk a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
say, I'll go ahead and jump in, and then if anybody has questions for any of us at the end. So, I'm Karen Scheidler, I'm a registered nurse, and I've been a certified diabetes educator, has been the most of my career in nursing, but about a year and a half ago, kind of did a little career switch, and I joined AHEC, which is Area Health Education Center. There's actually 8 AHEC districts in Indiana. I'm with North Central Indiana AHEC. And it's a grant-funded organization whose mission is to increase healthcare access to rural underserved populations. And we do that in a variety of ways. We have one person who primarily focuses on high school students and helping them to understand what healthcare careers are out there and how you get to that healthcare career, what's the path that it takes to get there. Does summer camp experiences and so forth with high school students. My role is to work more with those in the professional program. I work with the family medicine clerkships and help facilitate the clerkship for the students in our 11 county region, helping them to see that primary care in rural underserved communities has a lot of benefits to it. And so just helping to facilitate, make that a good experience. But also through IUPUI Kokomo, I think it's been maybe 4 years, Dr. Sheree.
Yeah, I think it's 4 years.
We've had a program called STEPS, which was successfully training and educating pre-med students. And with the STEPS program, we would interview and take up to 5 students, and we would pay for their Kaplan review course, which most of our students have taken that as an online course, and then help with mock interviews, with some job shadowing experience, and then taking them on some tours of the schools of medicines and helping them to learn about the process for getting accepted into med school. Well, with some conversation with Dr. Sheree this last fall, we decided that we were going to expand that STEPS program, and so now instead of pre-med, it's pre-healthcare profession students. So in your early in your junior year, you can apply for STEPS if you're looking at going into any post graduate education for like med school, dentistry, physical therapy, occupational therapy, pharmacy, physician assistant, any program like that. So again, we'll pay for that MCAT review course, or excuse me, that Kaplan review course for your particular exam that's required, and some of the other same experiences as we've been doing for the pre-med students in the past. So just wanted to share a little bit about that. The flyers here and in the back of the room, so help yourself look for the application early in the fall of 18, and Dr. Sheree's been our contact here in getting that word out to IUK students about that program. So that's one thing I wanted to mention to you.
I just want to add, several of our students that have gone through the program have been admitted to medical schools. We've had quite a few success stories.
So we've enjoyed that program. And then the other one I want to tell you that is that AHEC as a national organization has a new initiative. They're calling it the AHEC Scholars, although I believe they're going to change that to fellowship because maybe that sounds a little more interesting. But it's going to be for students who are in their last 2 years of their professional program. So it has more information about that. There is going to be a small stipend involved with that, and there's going to be some online opportunities for education and then some summer experiences. And its really focus is on interprofessional. So we're taking, it could be nursing, pharmacy, physical therapy, med school, nursing, all types of different, and having them work together, do some project type things, and really focusing on 5 core issues: behavioral health integration, cultural competency, interprofessional education, practice transformation, and social determinants of health. So we really feel like that when you're applying for residency or for education, the employers and the residency programs are gonna be very interested to see that you've had this experience. And so we're hoping that that will be a draw. But that application is now available, and there's more information about that on that flyer. So just wanted to.
After this semester, I'm transferring to IUPUI. Would I still be able to participate in that?
Yes, there is each AHEC district, and so Bloomington, just go on, if you Google AHEC, then you'll find a district for what one Bloomington is in, but, and I believe actually if you go online and apply, that it'll take you to whichever AHEC district you're gonna be in, because you could be in, you know, our district now, but if you go to Indianapolis, you will be in a, you know, different, I think it's called Mickey, but really Indianapolis, so. And then the last, just as a favor for us, for AHEC, we are a grant-funded organization, so we depend on some data collection. So I have one of these in the back of the room, and while you're finishing asking questions, I'm gonna pass one of these around and ask you to quickly fill out our evaluation form for us. So, any questions anybody has about our programs? Okay, I'll let you ask any other questions you have of these students.
Final questions for our panel?
Oh, I did have one. I heard or read somewhere, someone said that when you enter med school, that you're pretty much at like ground zero as far as medical information. Like they'll teach you everything that you need pretty much starting out. Is that true, or is there, I mean, how much, you know, background physiology should you be solid on? How much? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, they do. They teach you everything. Now, if you've had like an anatomy class before, yeah, it's gonna be nice because you probably will remember some things and it won't all be new. But no, they teach you everything that you're gonna need to know. But if, you know, if anatomy interests you, take it, and then that's maybe one less, you know, maybe that's gonna be your easy class your first semester because they already took it and I can focus on some of my other classes, so.
Final questions?
Do you think it would be helpful, like, to get anatomy before we go to school?
Do you think what?
It would be helpful to get anatomy before we go to school.
Yeah, I think human anatomy would be helpful. So like at Butler, we didn't have, or at least I did not know of, a human anatomy class. We were animal-based biology. And so that didn't help me as much, and I really wish I would have taken a human anatomy class in undergrad.
It's interesting that a lot of people, like pre-med students, assume that anatomy is part of their prereqs, but in essence it isn't a prereq to get into medical school. However, it certainly can be helpful to get in. It is prereq for some programs like PT and PA and some other programs, but not for medical.
Well, I remember being at a conference in Indy many years ago, and the medical school told us that they didn't want pre-med students to take human anatomy, the 200 level class. They simply did not want them to take that.
Yeah,
I never quite understood that.
They kind of want to, and correct me if I'm wrong with that, my impression was they kind of want to get you into medical school, sort of teach you their way in gross anatomy.
Along those lines, because we have a 300 level zoology-based, animal-based anatomy class, and the pre-med students can take that. But yeah, they're not encouraged to take the human anatomy, which is mostly for nursing students.
We do have human anatomy at IUPUI and physiology.
Yeah, you've got the same classes we do.
The program we took the steps as students to this past summer, there was some of those who were for admission into med school, and some who did the interview, and they said the same thing. We really don't want you to take anatomy in undergrad. You'll get that when you get here. I would have thought it would have been nice to be exposed to it twice versus the first time in med school.
I wish I could go back and take my first year anatomy class again, because you know, you learn so much you forget.
Well, IUPUI now has even a cadaver anatomy course, 400 level now that they've got, which is new. That might be helpful, I would think.
Yeah, we don't have cadavers, we use models.
Yeah, yeah. This is brand new.
Physician assistant school is supposed to be like shorter than like the actual physician school.
Yeah, it's a master's degree.
Is that why like anatomy is a prereq for the physician assistant program as opposed to?
Could be, yeah.
Physician? Also, just for anyone who cares to answer, how much like physics and organic chemistry do you tend to use in the medical field?
Once you're a physician?
Yeah.
I mean, like in medical school itself,
Oh.
is there prereqs required, like how relevant are they to actual curriculum in medical school?
Some of it is relevant, so in physics, like the fluid mechanics, that sort of stuff, is not in the sense where like I'm not doing those equations anymore, I don't even know those equations. But I know, they tell me this too, they say the first 2 years of med school, you're gonna forget it all, you're gonna learn everything in residency, so. But I think it's important, like when it comes to like blood pressure and with the kidneys, with the pressures that filter out the kidneys, or when you have edema, you know, why are you having this extra fluid go outside of your vessels, that sort of thing, and that's why you have to know it. OChem wise, or chemistry wise, it's more for farm. And you don't need to know it in the depth that you're gonna need to do it for the undergrad courses. It's to test you. It's to see if you can do it. That's what it's for.
All right. Well, can we have a round of applause for our guests? Thank you very much. I think this was a great session.
I'll give him my email too, if anybody wants to email me with questions.
Okay.
Like I said, don't let me scare you. You guys are here. You guys are here. You guys can do it. But I just wish someone was, you know, I either got the you can do it when I was going through it, or like, hey, maybe not. And I kind of wanted someone, hey, give me, you know, lay it out for me. Let me know what I need to do, and then I can go out and do it.
I think that's the message we need to hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we still have the